I read your chaos tweet last night, and I was like, man, this would be fucking awesome.
The what?
Your tweet about A&M winning the West, and the chaos tweet. That would
be hilarious.
All right, copy the link, send it over to Scott. Change this to gallery. Take that out. The board is very stable this morning. Oh, except for my Georgia State bet crashing down to 7. Wow. It's fantastic.
All right, let me tweet this out.
Do we have any Hamler news?
Should by now.
He's in the end zone throwing a football around. Here's video of him. He's just zipping the ball back and forth in the end zone. He's warm.
He will play, it looks like.
Yeah. Who's the Oklahoma State quarterback today?
Wait, James Franklin just told ESPN's that they're still waiting for word on whether, this is 30 minutes ago, KJ Hamler will play.
Well, as of 13 minutes ago, he's on the field.
Doesn't mean he'll play, though.
I know. I don't think he's going to play. Wouldn't you announce him to play? James Franklin. I haven't seen anything about Drew Brown.
All right. I'll give people like 15 more seconds. All right. What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Action Network College Football Betting Live Show. I'm Stuckey, and with me, as always, is Colin Wilson. What's going on, first of all?
Out in Nevada, decided to take when you're a parent, you have to maximize the weekends where you happen to be child free. So this was one of those times I could get away and get a sports book trip in, get a little bit of gamble trip in, and just kind of do a refresh and a little break before the big Thanksgiving weekend. And bowl season is going to be fun and awesome, but I don't think people understand. It's like the second those conference championship games are over, those lines for the bowls are out right away, and they move extremely fast. Like, lines don't really move as much as they do, but when bowl games come out, I mean, they'll move 7 points. They'll move 10 points. You think about that West Virginia against Syracuse last year. We didn't know West Virginia was going to have a quarterback. I mean, things can move 7 to 10 points. So just getting a little weekend siesta in here in state of Nevada before the big final 2 weekends here.
Yep. All right. Well, I guess let's
show the board.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's pull it up.
So before we get started, I was just mentioning, one of my write-ups in my piece this weekend was about Georgia State -10. It has everything to do with how much the Panthers dominate the trench. And Dan Ellington has decided that he's going to play on a torn ACL. He was stationary, pretty immobile, stayed in between the tackles. And once Appalachian State figured that out, they were able to change their game plan around. And they actually came back from being 21-7 down to Georgia State. So I thought this week, the Georgia State game plan would be able to work around Dan Ellington's the fact that he's just going to be a statue back there. But the number's taking a massive hit right now, down to 7 at some books. So just wanted to start off with that one.
Yeah, there's some injury news, really important injury news in college football today. You see the Minnesota line starting to take off. That's because Tanner Morgan is in,
Crazy.
Which is obviously really important. I played Nebraska small earlier in the week at 14, which obviously sucks now, but on the speculation that I didn't think he was going to play.
Yeah.
And then you obviously have 2 freshmen backing him up. You also
makes no sense why he's playing. It makes no sense to me whatsoever why he's playing in Northwestern with the biggest game of the program next week.
Yeah, this game means nothing to them if you assume that Wisconsin beats Purdue, which is a pretty safe assumption. Also, it looks like CeeDee Lamb will go for Oklahoma, which is really important, considering the issues that we talked about this in the podcast that TCU has defending explosiveness. And, the Oklahoma offense, regardless, is very efficient. You saw that in their comeback against Baylor, who also plays a similar style of defense in that they focus on not giving up big plays, right?
Right.
And but TCU, so they were able to efficiently move the ball down the field. TCU on the flip side, they play an aggressive defense that tries to, force turnovers, force 3 and outs, but you can hit them for big plays. So their efficiency numbers on defense are a lot better than Baylor, but their explosiveness numbers are a lot worse. So the availability of CeeDee Lamb is huge in this matchup. In my opinion, because I think Oklahoma rolls as long as they show up.
Yeah, biggest way to attack TCU is going to the air because they're outside the top 100 against pass explosiveness. So CeeDee Lamb was really big for this. And, we talked about this on the pod, Oklahoma getting that number 9 seed, the number 9 rank in the college football playoff. I think they're in try to beat somebody by 50, hanging a 50 burger on somebody because nobody's, mentioning us. We're not moving up in the polls. We just beat Baylor. We had a massive comeback and they only hopped up 1 spot. So, Oklahoma's got to blow 2 teams out in a row by 50 just to get some attention here.
Yep. All right. Well, let's go back up to noon. Let's go chronologically as we always do. The other injury news at noon. Well, I hate that these games are at noon, by the way.
Yeah.
These Big Ten games, especially on a slate like today. Put this game at night. The big issue here is that one of the things that Ohio State struggles with, there's 2 things. Their sack rate on passing downs, their sack rate in general is outside the top 100. Right. And, their offensive line has played so well, especially run blocking all year. They're number 1 or 2 in a lot of the advanced metrics. I should say this whenever I bring up their pass blocking stats it's twofold. It's not just pass blocking. It's also on the quarterback. And the reason that sack rate is so high is that Justin Fields tends to hold the ball a little too long in certain instances. So he is vulnerable, to getting sacks. And if you look at, and Ohio and Penn State has an excellent front 7. They lead the nation in yards per carry allowed, and they can get after the quarterback. So that's what they're going to need to do. And they're going to need to create havoc, which they can do, but they're going to need to, put Ohio State behind the sticks with their run D. And then you're going to have to force turnovers and get sacks. That is the only way they're going to slow down Ohio State, because we've seen Penn State, their secondary has been exposed over the last couple weeks. against Indiana, against Minnesota. Well, now they're going up against an even more potent offense. That's how they're going to have to handle it on the offensive side. The other issue is with Ohio State defending explosiveness. Right now, they play press man on the outside, and their corners and secondary are really good, and they're better than last year. But they're still giving up. Then their pass explosive numbers on defense look good. Their rush explosiveness numbers don't. I think they're 100th in the nation. Penn State really can't exploit that, but I am thinking that there is still potential because of the style that Ohio State plays. If KJ Hamler, which is why he's so key, just like CeeDee Lamb in the matchup, if Hamler plays, I do think that Ohio State's defense against elite receivers is still vulnerable against explosive players. And if their numbers are good, but if you look at the offenses they've played, who have they played with an explosive passing offense? Right. I mean, nobody really. I mean, they played. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Ohio State's schedule, what's their best win? What is their best win by ranking?
Wisconsin,
which just doesn't have an explosive passing offense. Cincinnati, right. Indiana, not explosive passing offense. Miami of Ohio, Nebraska, Florida Atlantic. I mean, kind of, but okay. But it's Florida Atlantic.
Hey, Florida Atlantic,
Michigan State, Northwestern. So they haven't played. Their explosive numbers look good, but they haven't really played someone like Hamler.
Florida Atlantic covered by the way. So
yeah, but so that's why KJ Hamler is so important to this game, and his status is still unknown. He's on the field. What's he on the field? Throwing a football? He's throwing a football
in the end zone, zipping the football around. He doesn't have any pads on, any nothing. He's just in the end zone, zipping the ball around on video right now.
And Franklin said he's hopeful that'll play, but it's still this is as of 25 minutes ago. But it's still going to be a medical decision. So they haven't decided yet. What is it like? I don't understand.
It's an hour and 8 minutes. So how can you not be cleared by now? I mean, think about it. If he was available, Franklin would say, yes, he's available. But to have him on the field zipping the ball around and not like say that he's cleared, that he is going to play. I mean, that just tells me that he's not. I don't think he's going to play. You would announce it. Why would you not announce it?
There's some little bit of steam. I mean, there's in a dead range coming on Ohio State, so maybe there's some speculation there. And
I know people. I think one of the arguments I've had in my DMs is when you say that you're setting power ratings, you never make a running back or a wide receiver more than a point. This is a special case. If you look at what KJ Hamler did against the Ohio State last year, he busted off a 90-yard little short quick pass and in the middle of all the entire defense and just took off. He's faster than everybody on the field. He can expose Ohio State's defense. He is the key to Penn State staying in this ball game and covering. So, I mean, it's a special case. Whether he's worth a point or not, he's worth everything to covering this game because Penn State doesn't have any other offensive options like him.
Yep, completely agree. All right, let's move on. I mean, by the way, this game decides this game decides who will go to the Big Ten championship. Assuming that Penn State beats Rutgers at home next week, which you can assume. If Penn State wins this game and then they win next week, it doesn't matter what happens in Ohio State, Michigan. Penn State will win and go to the Big Ten championship. And all of a sudden, they can win today, but the discussions would get interesting.
I'm going to probably have an underplay. If Hamler comes out and he's not playing, and if we get that information 1 or 2 minutes before, I'll play an under because I just don't think Penn State's going to be able to hold up their part.
Yeah, keep in mind that Penn State every single week, they're scoring 14, 17 points in the first quarter. And they're obviously, it's a Mitch Trubisky thing. He can't even do that now. But when he was, last year he had good numbers in the scripted portion of the game, and then he fell off a cliff. Well, Clifford is doing the same thing. So if they can't put up points early and Hamler is out, could get ugly. All right, let's move on in the early slate, 11 a.m. Eastern, but 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. Let's talk Liberty. Well, actually, I just got someone to get me some BYU minus 41. Here we go. It's my last chance to fade UMass. But let's talk Liberty, Virginia.
I'm just happy that under came. I'm happy that under came down a little bit because I had the first half under. I played the full game under because BYU is not only going to probably play their fourth string quarterback. They want to play every true freshman on the offensive line since they can't burn their red shirt anymore. BYU only beat Idaho State 42-10. I mean, that didn't get up to a total of 68 last week. So I'm playing the under in that game. BYU's offense is not equipped to throw up a 50 or 60 point game.
All right, let's talk Liberty, Virginia. I am on Liberty here at plus 17. This game means nothing to Virginia, by the way. Means a lot to Liberty for a number of reasons. And it's an in-state game for them against, Big Brother. But Virginia has a short week with Virginia Tech on deck, which will decide who goes to the ACC championship. And this means nothing to them, but their secondary has been abysmal. And there's injuries are a major cause of that. Even Georgia Tech carved them up. And Liberty has one of the most prolific passing attacks of the group of 5 teams. So I think they'll be able to move the ball here and stay within 17. You agree here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this goes back to, the secondary for Virginia. They're missing more key pieces than just Hall being out for the season. They've got a couple other injuries going on back there. Short week for them. Virginia Tech on overlook. Buckshot Calvert. This is Liberty was only trailing by 7 in the third quarter last year. They have confidence that they can beat this team, that they can stay close to these guys. That was a Turner Gill led Liberty team last year that ended up losing by 21 points. I mean, the coaching upgrade to Hugh Freeze is insane between Turner Gill and Hugh Freeze. So I think Liberty is going to give them some huge problems here.
Yep. All right, let's move on the noon slate here. I guess we can talk Michigan State. My numbers tell me to play them, make them close to 4 touchdowns. I don't know if I have announced at 21. They're definitely going to cover because if I do, they will.
I found it very interesting that Rutgers had an explosive TD on the ground and an explosive TD through the air against Ohio State. And I'm not saying that there's a lot of things that go into that, right? Chase Young wasn't playing. It was the week before Penn State and Michigan. So Iowa State easily could have taken the day off. I don't know the personnel that was in for the Ohio State defense. These things didn't happen in the fourth quarter. They happened early in the game. So I think Rutgers has a little bit of confidence for being able to put up points against Ohio State. But how does that translate here? I'm not sure. But, man, 21 points with Michigan State on the road. I mean, does it matter what team we're playing anymore with this offense?
Yeah, I can't talk about them anymore. Look, it's the SEC, the Samford, Alabama, and are they both noon kicks?
Yeah, well, hold on, let me bring it up. I was going to go into Michigan State.
Please don't.
We have Western Carolina, early kick here.
Yeah, both of these early kicks. Look, both of these, Western Carolina and Samford, are really bad, especially defensively. Stanford has a quarterback from South Florida. They can sling it around, but they're dead last in time of possession at FCS level. But Stanford and Western Carolina is dead last in rush defense in all of FCS. So, and they're like outside the top 100 in passing efficiency defense. So it is bad, their Western Carolina defense. So, but the problem is both, Alabama, Auburn is next week, and both of these teams don't have quarterback depth anymore, right? Tua is gone and Gatewood transferred. So you might see Gus and Saban, pull everything back even quicker than they normally would. But I can't stomach either dog here. Their defenses are just way too bad.
They are bad. They are extremely bad. And Gus, I think, would I think Gus has no problems putting up 70 on a Samford. Alabama, on the other hand, I mean, Western Carolina is terrible. This is not a good FCS team whatsoever. And I think Mac Jones, I think the big thing is when they have these non-conference games, they want to get Mac Jones in rhythm. They want him to, get a little, repertoire going on with Devontae Smith, with Ruggs, with Waddle, with Judy. And I think that Alabama knows that they're going to have to put 40 or 50 at Auburn, which I think is impossible, next week in the Iron Bowl if they want to go to the college football playoff. So I think you're going to see a ton of Mac Jones today. I don't think Tua's little brother's coming into this game until maybe late fourth quarter, but I think they want as many Mac Jones reps with those wide receivers as possible.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, but you have to also worry about his health, right? If you think he can get in, I mean, and how much practice are you really getting against Western Carolina than you wouldn't get in practice against your own D-backs?
I mean, I agree, but I just know that there was a game earlier this year that was a non-conference game, and it's escaping my mind who it was, but they played Mac Jones as much as possible to get him in rhythm with the wide receivers. They wanted to get him in sync, and so that's why he played a whole bunch extra. Now, does Saban change his philosophy after having Tua in at 35-7? Does he pull Mac Jones out after there's a 28-point lead? I guess we'll see.
Yep. All right, let's move on down the board here. I laid it with Notre Dame. I saw you did as well.
Yeah.
The more I look at this game, the Boston College secondary is horrible. I mean, Notre Dame should be able to score at will, and the Boston College offense is so one-dimensional. I mean, and Notre Dame is coming off a game against an option team, and their defense is starting to play even better. If you look at some of the advanced metrics, this one-dimensional Boston College offense, I know they have great running backs. I don't think they can keep up here.
Yeah, we talked about this on the pod. It's like the worst thing about Boston College is their passing success rate and their passing explosiveness rank on defense. They could be beat deep. And if you look at what Notre Dame did against Navy, a team that was ranked in the top 25 of the college football playoff, they went over the top and just blew Navy out of the water. And, Ian Book had 4 TDs by the time it was the middle of the second quarter. And Brian Kelly came out, I think, in his Monday presser. The first thing he said was, by the way, this will be the 7th opponent we have that's coming off of a bye week. And second off, we are number 16 in the college football playoff ranking, and you can't make a New Year's 6 unless you're 12th. So Brian Kelly absolutely knows what's going on. He knows the stakes. He knows that there's only one at-large bid. It's crazy. I won't get too deep into it, but generally there's 2 at-large bids to get into a New Year's 6. But because the semifinals this year are being played in the Peach Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl, that takes away one of those free at-large spots. There's only one at-large spot that goes to Cotton Bowl. So Notre Dame knows that that's what they're fighting for, and they've got to get to number 12 to even be considered for it. So I know everybody listen, I don't know if Boston College is going to score their points to make this full team go over, but I do like Notre Dame to cover. I like Notre Dame to score a whole hell of a lot of points, like the Notre Dame team total over, and I will be saying the exact same thing a week from now when they're playing Stanford.
Yeah, and Stanford needs to win out to get to bowl eligibility. I'm not sure they win today. We'll get to that game later, but yeah, I think Notre Dame should win this game fairly easily. All right, let's move on here. Texas, you want to talk? Yeah, let's talk Texas A&M, Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia's now an under machine, right? I mean, they just play these big games.
Especially first half.
They play these big games the same exact way every time. They don't give up big plays. They don't hit big plays. Their defense is really solid. They play a very conservative offensive game, and their unders have been loot in these big games. And this one has come down to 44. Does Texas A&M have a shot?
I think Texas A&M has a shot to cover, but that's just because of the way Georgia's style has been this year. Georgia's been very conservative in the first half. They've lacked scoring a lot of points in the first half just because of the play calling and the nature that they want to run their games. There's a really big different offensive philosophy between what Alabama and LSU is doing in the SEC versus what Georgia's doing. Georgia's old school SEC. I think that just comes from, what Kirby Smart experienced while he was at Alabama. It's more of a punch him in the face, run the ball, only pass with Jake Fromm on passing downs. But the problem is Georgia finds themselves in passing downs. And that allows your opponent to, keep close in games when you can't take, you don't have any high flying explosive offense. But the problem is Georgia is super efficient. And I mean, they're terrible at explosive plays, especially on the ground. I can't believe their rank is, I think, outside the top 80 in explosive runs. You would think it'd be different, but that's kind of based on how many times they actually attempt to run. And the defense is one of the best in the nation. So what you get is that Georgia is actually one of the best money line pieces every week, and they're one of the worst teams to cover over a touchdown spread. That's just how they play because they're super efficient. As long as Rodrigo ain't banging things to the left in South Carolina, this team is a dead shot money line play, but they're never going to beat anybody by this many points.
Yeah, do you have any play here?
I can't handle it with Texas A&M just because if we look right here, let me break up into the matchups. People are, hopping on Texas A&M doing this, doing that, but let's look at their opponents. South Carolina, UTSA, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. And then the last time they played somebody important, they got, beat by 19 against Alabama. So, I know that you won all these games and you covered everybody except UTSA. Except
they had a shot to cover that Alabama game, though, to be fair.
Yeah, and the thing is we don't have the Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond isn't consistent this year, and that makes it hard to back him when he's not as constant or as stable as he was last year.
Yeah, I think this line is about right, but I couldn't fault anyone for taking the under again at 44, just with the way that these two teams played. I don't see the Texas A&M offense doing much against Georgia. They're just so solid.
Let's check the weather though. We were talking on the pod about it being 80%. So yeah, it's still going to be 80% rain. I think there's going to be a lot of ground in this game. The weather and the fact that the total is so low is what makes the value on Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's fair. I wonder if Liberty's going to get to 14. That just got hit. All right, let's move on to here's your special USC UCLA.
Yeah.
I dug into it a little more after we disagreed on the pod. I decided to stay away. I might add UCLA live if they get down. I think they're going to have some success running the ball, but you're right. The secondary against that offense does have me a little worried.
Yeah, and I mean, I started looking into UCLA too. I mean, they're 44th in rushing success rate. I mean, that is good. They're legitimately good, and you are absolutely correct. That rushing success rate for the defense for USC is 127th. They're terrible, but this is a 100% full strength USC defense that we have not had the entire season. So I'm not making up for that 127th ranking against the rush. That's pretty bad. But at the same time, UCLA can rush the ball all they want. USC is top 50 against the Russian explosiveness. So maybe UCLA is able to move the chains. Maybe, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is able to move the ball. But Kedon Slovis is going deep. I mean, he's going deep every time. UCLA has a rank of 125th in defensive passing success rate, a rank of 127th in defending explosive plays through the air. That has Kedon Slovis in the air raid going, just pounding them over the 20-yard throws every time. So, I think that means the game could get out of hand. And Clay Helton's Clay Helton's got to be tired of this. I'm going to get fired. Blowing my rival out across town, and you're going to fire me, right? It's an interesting situation going on.
Drew Brown's taking first team snaps. You probably will see that line bump up a tad because there were if Drew Brown can't go or he's hurt, it's dire. You have a Sean Taylor and Peyton Thompson, who's a walk-on from Tulsa Union.
What? That's the high school next to my house.
That's
and by the way, one of the best high schools in the state of Oklahoma. We have very good football, but still, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's who would come in, and he's a walk-on. That I tried to look up his bio. They had no picture of him or anything. If Brown gets hurt or he is banged up, it's bad. I mean, that line West Virginia should probably be a favorite.
Let me go up and see if it's moving here. But yeah, it was crazy, just crazy week on the Pokes. I know I got a lot of DMs from people. I don't think they listen to the pod, or maybe they don't watch the show, but Oklahoma's passing success rate was top 20. West Virginia was outside the top 100. I didn't know about Spencer Sanders on Sunday night being this injured because he came back in the game after the injury, taped up, and he threw a 51-yard TD pass. So I thought he was fine. They announced him out, and then Drew Brown on Wednesday had an accident, had an injury, suffered in Wednesday's practice, and there was real doubt that he wasn't going to play in this game. But it looks like he is going to play. These 5.5s may pop back up to 6.
Yeah, it is one of the things that you mentioned that just really caught my attention. That now that I'm thinking about it, that I need to look into more, and I didn't this week, but it might be really important next week as well. BYU, you said, is going to play a lot of true freshmen in a game that they think that they can win. Next week, in the last game of the season, with this new redshirt rule, when you have teams that are completely out of it, you might see more teams do this more than we've ever seen before. So if we can try and get a feel for who those teams might be next week, there might be an edge on fading some of these favorites. Or if it's an underdog that wants to do it, it could get ugly as well. Like I'm sure UMass in the last game of the year that they probably want to get a lot of freshmen in as well.
UMass's problem.
That's something I'm going to try to dig into this week.
UMass's problem is that they already have like the shortest number of scholarship players on a roster. They only have like 40 scholarship players. Their depth is just 0. But that brings up a good point that we need to pay attention to teams that have 7 losses or more that want to just play all the true freshmen that they can. And that falls into the Arkansas bucket, going up against Missouri. So I know immediately that'll be something I'll be thinking about against a Missouri team that's going to have a bunch of turnover with a bunch of upperclassmen. So that's a really good point. We got to watch for those spots.
By the way, someone just tweeted this at me. Merrimack College and college basketball, who's new to D1 this year. They actually upset Northwestern at Northwestern. They had their first home game as D1 team last night, and they played a D3 team called Leslie. That's a winless D3 team. They won 110-16. Merrimack.
You and I haven't talked about this, but my girl lives a mile from Ecclesia College, and they had a game on the slate the other day.
She was tweeting at me. I'm fascinated by that place.
Yeah, I might drive by. Maybe we'll do a live show from Ecclesia College. So,
I actually looked up on YouTube, their basketball team, and there was a video of one of their games. It was the saddest thing I've ever seen. It was worse. It was like a middle school gym with 4 people in there, 4 moms cheering on the Ecclesia kids.
Can I mention something about Western Kentucky? I threw them in a round robin parlay last night, and we didn't get to talk much about them on the pod. Southern Miss, I know that everybody's looking at what Southern Miss has been doing on offense, but if you check out what their schedule has been lately, UTSA, UAB, Rice, the last time they played somebody competent, they got beat by La Tech by 15. I understand Southern Miss, there's things on offense that they do, especially, some explosive plays and stuff, but Western Kentucky has been very stout. They're off of a bye. They just got done beating Arkansas in what Tyson Helton called Western Kentucky's best played game of the year.
Everyone's best play of the game of the year is against Arkansas.
Well, LSU. All right. So Western Kentucky for me today. There's a lot in those stats. I think the defense can handle Southern Miss.
Here comes the Herman Dogs team. All right. Look up next. Texas Baylor. This line is hitting 4.5, 4 at some places. Looks like maybe.
Yeah. FanDuel's about to drop.
This line is crazy to me. Maybe make it a field goal max. And it's an awful spot for Baylor. It's their hopes and dreams were shattered last week. And not just hope, they're still going to the Big 12 championship. All they need to do is beat Kansas next week. But they're not going to the college football playoff any longer. They can still win the Big 12. This game doesn't mean anything to that. And not only did they lose their undefeated season, they lost it in excruciating fashion. Up by 25 points in the way that they went into a shell in the second half.
Right.
So, we talked about it all year. They probably should have won that game, but this team was flawed. They have flaws. They have flaws on their defense, especially now that
they have a lot of flaws
missing. They have flaws in their offensive line. And Texas has been getting healthier. Texas has owned this series. Herman as a dog is 16-3 against the spread. Think of it what you want. It's still a thing. But at the end of the day, this line was just too high. It's 6, 5, 4.5. This I think these two teams. I actually think Texas is, when healthy, is a little better than Baylor. But I think Ellinger can have a big day, and that Texas defense is getting healthier, and it's just a super, super flat spot for Baylor.
It is, unless you know where the motivation is coming to lock up the Arlington thing. Are they treating it as, well, we got Kansas next week, or hey, if we could just get this win, if we just survive this game, then we can take the week off against Kansas. I mean, they probably want to treat Kansas as a bye week, considering they got OU the following week to win the conference championship. So there's a lot of things in the numbers, though, that do say that Texas is going to be able to hang here. Baylor's 79th in defensive pass efficiency. That's something Ellinger is going to be able to take care of. They're 36 in passing success rate. We always know that Texas is really big, one of the best teams in the nation in first downs and in third down conversion, and that's because of Ellinger's legs. So he's going to be able to take off at any point. Baylor's 90th in opponent third down conversion. So I expect Texas to move the chains all day. My problem, and I think Texas in the spread is good. My problem with Texas actually winning this game is the coaching has just been atrocious for Texas lately. Like, they're just not focused. They have too many penalties, and in critical situations, they're having just dumb penalties. So while Texas should, on a clean box score of no turnovers and a healthy amount of low penalties, Texas should cover this game.
Yep, I completely agree. All right, let's move on here. Welcome. Looks like Naylor will start for Michigan State.
I couldn't make a case for Charlotte this week. I know Benny LeMay's out, and generally their offensive line is the strength of the team, but Marshall's no slouch. I know Marshall's on the road. Marshall can't lose a game. They absolutely cannot lose the game because of the race that's going on in the Conference USA. So I know that there's some people out there taking Charlotte and backing them, but Benny LeMay's out. They can still rush the ball really well, and they have a good offensive line. But I think Marshall's bigger in the trenches, and I'm not looking to fade Marshall these days.
All right, BYU, Greg Rubble, who is the voice of the Cougars, just said no Finau, no Esukpa, the BYU names, I always butcher them. And Kalani said that he's not counting on Katoa to go as well. That means Tyler Algier will move from linebacker to primary running back today. So
I'm sorry, what? Repeat that for the crowd.
Really? So
no. That a linebacker is going to play running back today?
Yeah, the linebackers are the primary running back for BYU.
I think I'm adding to the under. Hold on. You go if you want to discuss something. I got to take this under again. No, so that that plays into the thing that BYU has said in the press. They're going to play as many true freshmen as possible here. They can't burn their red shirt. And I mean, to me, the total is just way too high, depending on a bunch of freshmen. UMass gets beat by a bunch of freshmen that weren't allowed to play because they didn't want to burn their red shirt. That would be embarrassing.
I'm still playing BYU.
Yeah, I can't make a case for the side, but I can tell you from a total perspective.
All right. Let's move on here to SMU Navy. So I can tell you I have 3 teams circled for my live, for who I'm targeting live. Now that can change based on what I see while watching. But Tulane, looks like UCF is steaming, by the way. Tulane, if they go down like 7-10, that game, there should be points everywhere. And so if like UCF goes up 7-10 nothing early, I'm not worried about Tulane not scoring and coming back. So Tulane for me. Also Navy should be a lot of points in that game as well. Navy's and Navy's always going to try to the end. You saw that against Notre Dame too. And they'll be able to do their thing with their option. They'll give up points to the SMU offense. So if SMU comes out and hits a touchdown and or Navy fumbles and SMU scores again, I'll look for Navy live. And then also Cal. I wanted to get 3, never popped. So if Stanford goes up there,
Looks like it's going up.
Yeah, if it gets to 3, I'll play Cal. If not, I'll look to get Cal live. Did not work out last night. I waited to get Colorado State live, which I got at 8.5 and 9.5. They lost by 10 in hilarious fashion.
You knew that they were. I can't drop the F bomb. You knew that they were gonna F us. Colorado. I just looked at Colorado State line. I said, man, this is the side to play. This many points against a low scoring Wyoming. You just knew some way Colorado State was gonna F it up.
Yeah, they make a 50-yard field goal to cover against my live number. While Colorado State just fucked up over and over and over again.
How many times did they turn? They decided not to kick so many times, and poorly coached. Bobo's got to get it on.
All right. I love Syracuse today against Louisville. I played them plus 10. Still like it down to where it's at now, 8.5, 9. It just look, Syracuse did a lot off the bye. They're playing for a bowl. Louisville's already bowl eligible, but they moved some things around on the offensive line. They moved their center to tackle, guard to center, and it was a needed move. Their offensive line looked great against a good Duke defensive line last week. And then they got McKinley Williams back on the defensive side. Their defensive general has been getting healthier. Chase Sisco at safety, who was freshman All-American last year, who had a pick 6 last week. He's back in the fold, back up to game speed. So, the Syracuse passing offense is still a joke with Tommy DeVito, but they should be able to run the ball now. Their offensive line is a lot better. And Louisville's defense is a circus. So give me Syracuse with the motivation here at anything over a touchdown.
That was a bit of a shock last week, but if you look at the box score, they were given 3 turnovers from Duke there. So, but you're right about what happened within, certain things with Syracuse that led to that. And Duke had overlook to Wake.
Yeah, I like Babers in a motivational spot. So they'll be fired up here today. All right, let's move on.
Do we know? I mean, I don't, but this UNLV team on San Jose State, I don't know if it's just mass amounts of San Jose State money coming in because of what they've done this season and their body of work, and that's a reason to back up against UNLV. But UNLV is still hanging tight in some games.
Yeah, the problem is here. I mean, obviously, San Jose State wants and needs to win. But let me see. UNLV.
Yeah, they're 4-6, right?
I'm trying to see if there's anyone that was announced out recently.
I mean, Amani Rogers came back full healthy. So this one was a bit of a shock to me. But that Hawaii score last week that was in one of my write-ups that lost.
Amani Rogers is starting.
I don't know if he's starting. They're switching him in with the other kid, the passer. But
you're better off. Maybe it was announced that Rogers. I don't know. I had no interest in this game.
Yeah, I'm just saying
that Rogers is playing because that would be bad for UNLV because the San Jose State run defense is good.
Right,
good linebackers.
Yeah, and this Hawaii game was a lot closer last week. There was actually a turnover at the end that caused this score to go from 14-7 to 21-7. Anyways, I'll keep an eye on it.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Anything to catch? We have like 5 or so minutes here. Let me get Duke. Look, it's at 6.5 everywhere now.
Yep.
I was able to get some 7.5 and 7+ money. This line was crazy at 7+, which means Wake will cover, but whatever. Wake Forest, they can't run the ball. And Duke's run defense is questionable. Duke has a really good secondary. They have a good defensive line. They can get after the quarterback. They're top 20 in defensive pass success rate. But Wake Forest, who can't run it, they're one of the worst running teams in the country. They now are without their top 2 receivers in Scotty Washington and Sage Surratt. And their offense has gone in the tank. It is just a shell of itself. It's been bad, and they have no explosiveness now. I mean, that was a lot of their offense. It was, read option, let's chuck it deep to Surratt and Washington, use their height, and they were really good receivers. Without them, you lose that explosiveness nature of your passing offense. You have, a running game that can't get going, and then you're playing a Duke defense that's really efficient at defending the pass. So it's just bad news for the Wake offense. The Duke offense stinks. Not going to make a case for them, but so does the Wake defense. And then if you look at from a motivational perspective, everything is in favor of Duke. Not only did they get embarrassed last week, but more importantly, they got embarrassed by Wake Forest in Daniel Jones's last home game last year. 56-7, something like that. 50 something.
Yeah, I got it highlighted here.
And they've had that game circled since. And it's not just me saying that. They've come out and said that this week. They said that in the offseason.
They said it in August. They said it this week. They say it all the time. They're pissed about this game.
Yeah. So, and they're also playing for a bowl. They need to win out to get to a bowl, while Wake is already bowl eligible. So this is a good matchup and a great spot, probably the spot of the day. Which means Wake will be down. Wake will be up 3 and get a pick 6 to cover.
So I want to talk about Oregon, Arizona State real quick. The reason why I haven't put a play in on the app on Arizona State is Herm sat a handful of players in the first quarter against Oregon State last week because of some disciplinary action, some violations that came through, and he just took some of his best players and he sat them through the first quarter against Oregon State. And the term focus is being used about where Arizona State is right now. But if you look at this Oregon-Arizona State game from last year, this was a game that the Sun Devils kept really, really close. You can see a 2-point victory here. And Herbert in that game ended up with only 2 TDs, 2 interceptions, only 200 and a few more yards. Didn't have a very good day passing whatsoever because of the 3-3-5 defense. Really kept him off guard and confused. I'm not sure if he had more than 2 interceptions in other games the entire season. So the Arizona State defense schematically at full strength can stop Justin Herbert and give him some problems if he hasn't learned his lessons from last year. The problem I have is Herm suspending guys for the first quarter last week against Oregon State and really wondering where this team's head is. They're sitting at 5-5. They got everything to play for a bowl. Their offensive line ranks one of the worst in the Pac-12. That gives me a little bit of nerves. But everything that I'm seeing from the market here, there's a lot of money going against Oregon here in this spot. And I think it's smart money. And I think it's because of what Herbert was able to do against the 3-3-5 last year. So this is going to be a Pac-12 after dark. It's going to be something to watch here.
Arizona State's going to have a shot.
Yeah.
Every game, Herm Edwards. It'll be one possession late. I'm on Arizona State. Played them 14.5 earlier in the week. And before we get out of here and hopefully go watch us have a bounce back Saturday, no pick 6s late.
I'm riding Hawaii futures on the island, not backing off.
That'll just come to, that's a fascinating matchup. It's shitty offense versus shitty defense and good offense versus good defense. Yeah. And last thing I'll say, anything on Washington, Colorado? You think Utah rolls, right?
I think Utah absolutely rolls. I don't care. I don't even want to look at the odds screen. I don't even care. I think Utah is just on a mission to hop Alabama and get into the playoff.
I think Oklahoma rolls TCU, by the way. We'll be on that. All right. Let's get out of here. Good luck, everyone. We'll be back for the podcast recap tomorrow. I'll be out Monday morning. Good luck today. Don't forget about the voicemails and Action Network podcast. Rate, review, subscribe, leave a comment for some swag. We'll catch y'all later. Cheers.
Peace out.